Unfortunately, it's looking like this is going to be a yearly video. I'm starting this video off with a very hot take. The ski industry isn't nearly as bad as much of the media and even some of you say it is. Throughout this past ski season, we've seen dozens and dozens of negative headlines. But what I've taken away from a lot of those headlines is not necessarily that the ski industry is cooked, as I believe the modern youth might say. What I've taken away is that the ski industry is alive and well, and doing its best to adapt to a never-ending deluge of new problems. Try to keep an open mind as I share my opinions, and I'll do the same when I read your comments later. Now, let's get to it. Now, to many of you, we're known for making somewhat controversial haters guides to some of the best mountains around. I would like to make it clear that we absolutely adore the ski industry, and if that wasn't so, we wouldn't make those videos. While we can come off strong, at the end of the day, we like to ski, as simple as that. Content is content, and we do enjoy letting out a good rant, but at the end of the day, the opinions you'll hear here are for real. This isn't the show we put on in haters guides, just a couple of opinions from the heart. Whether you agree or disagree, we would love to hear your opinions on these issues down below. By far the biggest headline of this past ski season was the Ski Patrol strike in Park City. For those who missed it, the Ski Patrol at Vail's marquee Utah mountain, Park City, went on strike right in the middle of the New Year's vacation period. It disrupted a lot of vacations and eventually ended with Patrol getting most of the terms they wanted in their contract, the most important of those being wage increases of $2 all the way up to $7.75, available overtime, and parental leave. It left people extremely disappointed, mostly with Vail, although there were some that were frustrated with Patrol's actions as well. I'll be honest, this is one of them ones that we need to give a few seasons to see its true impact. What I will say is that while it did unfortunately ruin many people's vacations, it lit the fuse for what could be a huge improvement in the industry throughout the near and far future. If you were affected by the strike, I apologize for phrasing it this way, but at the end of the day, this is what it is. The sacrifice of the few, those being the vacationers, will end up paying dividends for the masses throughout the coming years as other groups take action to ensure better compensation, ensuring the future of experienced employees. Now, to address the big villain here, Vail Resorts. It's practically a consensus that Vail was the evil side in this war, but I would like to bring attention to one particular thing. The strike only lasted 12 days. While it is obviously unique for each occurrence, strikes can often take several weeks or even months to resolve. Don't get me wrong, I'm not defending Vail, as they had every chance to prevent the strike through 10 months of prior negotiating. But let me play devil's advocate just a bit. This may sound crazy, but I think that Vail handled the strike just as well as any other company could have. Alterra or Boyne could go through the same thing, end it in 12 days, and I have a gut feeling that not quite as many people would bash them for it. Call me crazy, but it does feel like we just like to point fingers at Vail for the failures of the industry as a whole. Vail is the industry-wide scapegoat, which honestly doesn't affect us all that much, but is interesting to look at. Again, not defending Vail, just offering an alternative perspective to what much of the mainstream ski media will present. The next biggest headline was the seemingly never-ending list of ski lift accidents. My main take on this is as follows. It was a statistical anomaly, but nothing to be concerned about. It doesn't take Einstein to tell you that with thousands of operating ski lifts across the continent, outlier years with more major accidents than usual are bound to happen. It just happened to be this past season. While the death that did occur was absolutely tragic, I believe that the overall record of incidents may have been overstated. Quantitatively, you can't argue against the higher number this year, but I've seen a lot of people, and even some media outlets, saying that ski lifts are no longer safe, and are citing this for evidence. Let's take a conservative estimate and say that one person, on one day of skiing, rides a lift 8 times. With 60.483 million skier visits in the 23-24 season, we'll conservatively approximate this past season's visitation dip just a bit to 60 million. 8 times 60 million gives you 480 million lift rides throughout the season, of which 10 resulted in injury and 1 in death. That gives an incidence rate of 0.0000023% of lift rides that resulted in a casualty. With approximately 400 billion car trips per year and 6 million crashes, that incidence is 0.0015%, which is 655 times higher than the incidence of riding a ski lift. Assuming the commonly cited 1 in 1.2 million chance of getting struck by lightning in a given year, you are 36 more times likely to get struck by lightning than to get injured in a ski lift accident. And remember that original estimated rate of incidence for the lifts is very much on the conservative side. So yeah, ski lifts are still safe. If these incidents freak you out, I'm not expecting me throwing all these numbers at you to make you feel better, but I hope that they did. People love to take things like this and blow them insanely out of proportion, and don't get me wrong, I'm not dismissing the notion that perhaps there has been some deferred maintenance, and some of these big companies aren't putting the care they should into their infrastructure. But it's also not the end of the world, and the ski lift network of North America is not outright failing like some might like to dramatize. The final major thing I'd like to discuss was the acquisition trend we saw this year. Although to be fair, while calling it a trend might be a stretch, it is certainly a step in the right direction. We've been so accustomed to seeing Vail buys this, Altera buys that over the past seasons that this year's headlines felt like a breath of fresh air. While admittedly not by those aforementioned giants, a different multi-mountain conglomerate, Powder Corp, sold off Killington Pico to a group of local investors. There were also some smaller mountains that transferred hands but stayed independent, again disrupting the chain of non-stop acquisition by the bigger batter wolves. This is huge because it represents a reversal, and while there inevitably will still be acquisitions by the industry giants in the near and far future, this shows a renewed commitment to regional and self-dependency. One among the many issues with a company like Vail is that its mountains are stretched so far and wide. It's a huge benefit from a business standpoint, as if one region is having a down season, it's likely that other regions can cover for it, ensuring year-over-year steady income. However, this can come at the expense of unfairness towards certain mountain regions, for a plethora of reasons. One of the major of these is that some regions are more consistent and more touristic, incentivizing the companies to invest more in those mountains while shorting others. While Killington is owned just by the people who own Killington, the money that Killington brings in will go back into Killington, and Killington won't get shorted by big corporate taking Killington's money and investing it in the Rockies, or not investing it at all and putting it in C-suite pockets. Either way, it's a turn that could set a precedent for the coming seasons. That was the main thing about this season, setting precedents. From setting the precedent of compensating employees better to setting the precedent for future resort acquisitions, this ski season set the stage for a landmark shift in the industry over the next few seasons. In many ways, it felt like these past seasons since the pandemic have pushed the ski industry right to the brink of major change, and it wouldn't surprise me if over the next few seasons, maybe not next year but sometime in the near future, we saw a landmark shift in the ski industry landscape. I don't know how that will come about or quite what it will be, and anybody's guess is as good as ours. But here's one thing I know for certain. We'll be here for it. And it'll be fun when we sit down next May and make the 2026 edition of this video and see just how crazy it got. Some of the excitement of the ski industry is that you never know what's going to happen next. One ruined ski vacation may make way for a lifetime of even better skiing memories. I would like to implore you to try your best not to overreact to things. One season with more lift incidents than usual doesn't constitute a lack of safety with the sport. One big acquisition doesn't mean that big corporate will suddenly start selling off their mountains, although one can hope. And to be honest, what's to say that if all of a sudden all these big mountains went back to locals, they would fare any better? After all, people are here to ski, whether it's at a Vail resort or a standalone mountain, and I'm not really sure that changes in ownership will change that too drastically. Everything that has happened in the ski industry, and all that the future holds, there's no point in claiming that each new thing is the death of skiing or the change that could save the industry. Because at the end of the day, nobody knows what the future holds. Not I, not you, not anybody else. We love the ski industry, and we're here for all the twists and turns that each new season brings, and I hope you are along for the ride. All my love, I'm out.